afternoon, Startup Istanbul. I always love coming here from the other side of the world. I spend most of my days in Brooklyn, New York. But as Azan just told you, I published a book last year that looks at entrepreneurs like you from all around the world, from Turkey, Pakistan, Mexico, Nigeria, India, Russia, and China. And what I found is that while everybody talks about this place called Silicon Valley, there's so many great things going on in all the countries that you're coming from. And I would dare say that you're even better than Silicon Valley. So my talk today is my talk is going to be it's going to be a combination of Oprah and tough love. And so I'm going to tell you why you are better than Silicon Valley, but why you can't beat them. Because there are still obstacles that you face that allow Silicon Valley to continue to be the mecca of innovation and entrepreneurship. So I hope what comes to follow will be useful to you. So the first thing that I noticed traveling around the world is that a lot of places, you face so much more challenges than we do in the United States. You have bad infrastructure. I mean, if you go out here in Istanbul, there's a tremendous amount of traffic. I certainly encounter it in New York City where my internet goes out because Time Warner is terrible. And then you also have things, just basic things where you have old institutions and old systems, and you don't have the laws and the regulations that are up to it. Well, I'll tell you something. I think that the fact that you face challenges is the reason that you stumble upon more innovations than Silicon Valley. Innovation doesn't come from being comfortable. And I think you've heard constantly, all you entrepreneurs, about how if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to get uncomfortable. Well, that's what it's all about. And I can't think of a place where mobile money, I think, is a perfect example of how innovation came about. In the United States, we have banks. We have credit cards. We can move money around so easily. And yet, it was in Kenya that M-Pesa came up with the idea of being able to transfer money over your mobile phone. And why did they do that? They did it primarily because there's a challenge of being able to move money in Africa, but not just in Africa. It's a problem that people face in Latin America, in Asia, and the Middle East. And that's just an innovative idea. The second reason that I think that you're better than Silicon Valley is that you do more with less, right? You don't have all of the wealth and the gadgets and the things that we have in the United States, and remarkably, you make things work. Whether it's putting cardboard boxes together or fixing a startup workspace, you actually know how to actually be resourceful. Oh, it's funny, come on. So you just come up with just interesting ideas. The third reason why I think that you're better than Silicon Valley, and this is probably true for Silicon Valley too, is that you multitask. Now, I think every startup starts out with a founder or two founders who are essentially doing everything. And I think that is just a process of elimination for every startup founder. But I have to say, what I saw traveling all around the world was that it's far more than that. It's far more than just doing the finances and doing the human resources. You're multitasking because you're trying to figure out how to hire people, and you're trying to figure out how do you actually pay them. Because of the challenges that you're facing, you actually have to figure out how to not only innovate, build your startup, but also build it and then scale it up. And I actually have to say that it's always amazing to me when I go to all the countries that I've been to, whether it's Indonesia or Brazil or Mexico or even here in Turkey, how the entrepreneurs are just so amazing at being multitasking and really accomplishing all of it. So now I'm going to turn to the tough love and why you have a hard time beating Silicon Valley. The first is there's a huge lack of trust in large parts of the world. And this is true in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East. And what I mean by that is that there's just a general suspicion about how institutions work and how society works. And are public services going to work? Is the government going to deliver? I hear all the time, I don't want to share my idea with anyone. You're never going to be able to raise capital or hire people if you're not able to trust anyone. The lack of trust, what it does is it creates an atmosphere of suspicion. So rather than actually being transparent and open, when you're holding your idea back, you're doing two things. You're depriving yourself from building your idea even further because ideas beget ideas. And the more you're able to share and talk to people about your idea, the more that you can build on it. The second thing that you're doing when you're not able to trust anyone is that you're depriving people of a product and service that they may be able to use. And so you're not actually testing out that idea that you have. And I know, I have seen it in all the places that I've traveled, the tremendous amount of innovation and the innovative ideas that you have. The second reason that I think that you have a hard time beating Silicon Valley has to do with ego. Now, there's a lot of ego in Silicon Valley. I recognize that. But what I mean by ego is there's this certain mentality in places all around the world outside of the United States where it's still about the patron, and it's about master and servant. And there's a Turkish saying, parayı veren düdüğü çalar. He who pays for the flute can play he who hands over the money can play the flute. And essentially what that is if you work with suppliers and distributors, or if you hire staff, what I tend to see is this, I'm not going to listen to you, I'm going to tell you what to do. This hurts you. One of the reasons Silicon Valley succeeds and the startups in Silicon Valley succeed is because there is a culture of listening. There's a culture of sharing, and there's a culture of teamwork and collaboration. The third reason that I think that you have a hard time beating Silicon Valley is responsibility. And it has a little bit to do with the reason before ego, which is that what I hear a lot around the world outside of Silicon Valley is, it's her fault, it's your fault. You're looking for someone to blame. The reality is, if you're taking a risk to go out there and build a startup, you have to have the courage to take responsibility. It might very well be someone else's fault, but you as a leader need to be able to take responsibility. So I'm going to talk a little bit, I'm going to go through a couple of solutions that I want you to be able to consider as you head out there and go back to wherever the 63 countries that you came from. And the first is, build your confidence. The one thing that I have found that separates entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley from everywhere else is the lack of confidence in the entrepreneurs outside of Silicon Valley. Outside of Silicon Valley, people are always trying to find acceptance, trying to find approval and validation. They want people to like them. They want to know that their idea is good. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're an entrepreneur, you have to be okay with being uncomfortable and not having that approval. And that comes with building confidence. You have to believe in your idea. It doesn't matter if no one believes in your idea. People told Steve Jobs that he was crazy for trying to build a personal computer. They told him that no one would buy a personal computer for their homes. Why would anyone do that? But he had the confidence to believe in his idea, and he continued on with it. The second thing is lift others up. And this goes to not only taking responsibility, but really going out there and helping people. And there's actually, and this is the Oprah part of it, there's actually something that goes on in your unconscious and in the energy that you emit when you actually go out there and you try to help someone. Don't you feel good when you're able to actually help someone with a question or help them solve a problem, lifting others up, helping them fulfill their talent and potential, this is one of the keys that I've seen in Silicon Valley, because that's what they do in Silicon Valley. They're always looking for opportunities to encourage other people to move along. The third is have courage and be kind. And it's not just lifting others up, just remember to be kind. And I know that's very, very Oprah, but the one thing that I always stop to see, you don't know what someone's day is like, and you don't know what their lives are like. And so they may have a sad face, they may seem angry, but you don't know where that anger is coming from, so don't assume that it's from you. And extend them that kindness, and it goes back again to the energy that you're giving out to people. Stop the excuses. This I know I'm repeating, but it's the one thing that I have to say. You have to stop finding excuses. Taking responsibility is what all successful startups, that's the one thing that they have in common. And that is the one thing that I see in Silicon Valley. They don't have excuses. They go out there, they take responsibility, and they do it. And the fifth one is be a leader. And that might seem like an odd thing to say because I have been talking about being a leader. But what I mean by this is, again, going back and being uncomfortable with going out there when no one believes in what you're doing. It's being willing to stand on the stage where all these eyes are on you and the lights are on you, and you don't know how what you're saying is being received. That is being a leader. It's not seeking other people's approval, and it's encouraging others to come along with your vision. And I'll just wrap up here, and the last thing that you can do to find success beyond Silicon Valley is you can read my book. Thank you.